to say, nah.
Who can make it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who has the access
can't.
and who doesn't have the access?
And I think a lot of them actually gets hype off. Like I see a lot of celebrities that go into these girls, DM all the time, take them on trips, and they get hyped off of that. But it's like, you're a one night stand. And you're like, oh, I was out with, I ain't gonna say no names, but I was out with such and such, and he took me on a trip, and he flew me in, for a weekend shopping, and they think they did something. I mean, it's like, is that where your self-worth?
Value.
Yeah, your value is.
Let me ask you this though: what about the men?
Okay.
From a male's perspective, doesn't it give a man a particular level of clout with other men to be seen with a certain kind of woman? Or to be able to say, I can snag that kind of girl?
Well, that goes towards his self-esteem. If he feel like, but if you had to buy her, I don't think that doesn't do anything for, it wouldn't help my self-esteem at all. But as far as that guy in particular, that's the way of society at this point, because guys feel like they have to purchase or buy their way. If they can't, most of them don't have a conversation. And like when we grew up, you can talk a girl out of underwear, and get what you wanted. Now, it's like they just pay their way. And so you get one simp to pay her way. You got another simp to pay her way. And next thing you know, she feels like, okay, well, maybe that's the norm. And I could be wrong. But when it continues to happen, and every guy that goes up to her is like, hey, man, I got 10 stacks. What's up? And you see dudes doing this all the time. What does that make sense?
It started in hip hop culture.
How do you break that cycle?
It ain't tricking if you got it, kind of thing.
Right.
Well, that's also, I'm thinking as a man, circle. If I'm a guy and I have 10 stacks, if I have $10,000 I can throw around, that's impressing my guy friends. You know what I'm saying? That I got money. Right. I got money I could trick off on a beautiful woman. And so now I'm winning twice type of thing. I think something that you said about the disconnection, how to bring it back, is that we're so disconnected. Like, we're not trying to know one another. No. We're trying to be seen with one another. Right. You know what I mean? I want to take this picture with Drake so I can put it on my Instagram. It's the little skit at the end of Nice for What? You know what I mean? My Instagram is weak as you know what. Like, I really need some better pictures. I need some celebrities. I need something. But you're not trying to get to know the celebrity. You're not trying to get to know what's in his mind or what's your next project. I'm interested. I'm your fan. Mm-hmm.
Nobody's living to like. People are living for likes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Like that's...
Can you give me the 100K, please? Oops, I did it, D.
You sure did.
Didn't I just say that?
I did it.
You did. Well, anyways, but specific. Do you want to elaborate on what you did?
Yeah. Well, we were given the list of do's and don'ts before we started the podcast, and one of the things Don explained to us is that we can't tap the table, and we shouldn't make loud noises like clapping our hands to make a point. And we stood here and we were like,
we don't do that.
So, listeners, I apologize if your speakers peak or made your equalizer go wild. But
I apologize. It's my fault.
I have a question about this conversation, though.
Yeah.
Is this more specific to Black culture?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. Because just doing a little quick browse for research purposes before we began, I took a look at an article online that showed this white chick. Her name is Lizette Calvero, 26-year-old chick from New York who went into major debt to be able to impress people on Instagram. Wow. She reportedly spent $200 a month on clothes that she wouldn't be photographed in the same outfit twice. And she purchased designer handbags and products every month to show off her portraits. Every single month of the year that she did this, I think it was 2013 or 14, she traveled to a new city or country to take photographs just to put it on Instagram.
Living for likes.
Living for likes, and just to portray herself as a jet setter, But she traveled alone. Mm-hmm. She traveled standby. She, took the cheapest flights and lived in hostels and stayed in, sometimes didn't even have a place to stay.
What did she get out of it at the end? Did you see any of that?
She got debt. She got debt. And she got lots of followers. And, she had a following. Right now, she has about 18,000 followers on her Instagram account at the time of the writing of this article, which was last year.
So let me ask you,
short of the 6, 7, 8, and 9-figure followings of real Instagram celebrities.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that would be worth it based on, say, if she was doing it to build her portfolio for cash?
I think absolutely. If she could find a way to monetize that and to parlay that into some type of career.
She was doing all that, but she was not looking at the business aspect. There's an engine behind being an Instagram.
Oh, it's an industry.
Yeah, it's being an influencer, setting up your accounts to market certain products. It's all a commercialism.
Of course you can do that now, except that I think for the regular everyday guy and girl who's not going to get a Fashion Nova contract or endorsement.
No, but you
just want all of your friends that you do know and the people who don't know you, who are your quote-unquote friends, to follow you. Now you have all the disconnected people who are looking for the influencers online. They're going to see her account. They're going to see she has 25,000 followers. Man, I want her life.
It's not but it's not about having a contract. I think you can set up influencer accounts with Amazon, with different places, and then once you get this little code and you get people to actually, that's the biggest thing, trying to get these clicks, but this is a whole nother conversation, really. Yeah. But there is a way to monetize what she was doing. She just didn't do it. She just didn't know what to do. Right. She spent all the money on the thing that's not getting her, because a lot of these little teens, they're doing it in their bedrooms. Like, they're literally...
she could do that. This is probably why she had $10,000 to blow. A sister like myself, who doesn't have $10,000 to blow to impress y'all and nobody else...
She didn't either.
Would go to my local...
thrift shop?
Well, not even thrift shop. I would go to the Galleria and take pictures wearing all these $1,000 shirts and blouses.
Tucking them labels.
Just snap a photograph.
I have a similar story. There's a guy out of Miami that did this recently. And he was renting exotic cars. And he would go to the club, post up, take pictures, make himself seem like he was some type of low-level underground millionaire. And he actually got a lot of people to be interested in him. Wasn't even that great-looking guy. But he had fancy Ferraris, Lamborghinis. And he actually worked at the dealership, where he was actually the car rental place.
Wow.
Nice.
And he would actually get his discount, rent those cars, run around Miami, and make it seem like he was a millionaire, and people bought it. And it actually got him in on a record deal, amongst other things. So, it works.
Fake it till you make it.
That's it. But that's pretty much what these women are doing as well. Fake it till they make it, because you think about it.
Not just women.
I know. Okay. We're speaking about a guy, first of all.
No.
So, calm down. So, you do have, whether it's male or female, they get to that point to where they're willing to do pretty much anything and fake it till they make it. And sometimes they do make it.
Is it healthy? That's the question.
Is it?
If you're seeking popularity for the sake of popularity, that can't be healthy. I mean, if you have a business goal or a plan, it's like you said, like you have, it's one thing, like say, you're just a young kid and you don't know, but you're trying to get yourself out there and you're trying to learn. And so you get on there and you find this influencer person and you hit them on a DM and say like, hey, how do I get to be like you? I want to do what you're doing.
Exactly.
That sort of thing. And you're networking. I mean, that's the great thing about the internet and social media is that the world's now smaller, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can set up a relationship with somebody in Tokyo. Right. You can meet somebody in Seoul, and you can have a live face-to-face conversation digitally, but you can have a conversation with somebody on the whole other side of the world through internet, social media. But the problem is, like kids are getting too much access to it, unsupervised, and so it's like we've got. I mean, I know I'm guilty of it myself. Like I told myself, one of my resolutions for this year is I got to get my kids' screen time down. You know, but you got kids who are on these things unsupervised, and because they're on it unsupervised, they're just out there. And so that leads to a situation like this girl that you mentioned.
Well,
you know?
I'm glad you even mentioned about kids, because immediately when I think of the disconnection, I can see it immediately with kids. Those damn iPads are the worst for kids. I'm certain there are myriad pros to having them with your kids, right?
Yeah, you can learn anything, but who's learning?
But it's raising their children. That's
I think
the thing.
it is the new pacifier.
Yes.
It's the new pacifier. I myself have friends who have children, and on a Saturday, as beautiful as today is, they are sitting in their house right now looking at their iPads. And this is like, we're a week, 2 weeks away from like Christmas. They got toys and gifts. No one got bikes this year. When I went home for Christmas, we stood outside and we were talking, and I'm looking at the driveways, I'm looking at the streets, and I'm like, oh my God.
There's no kids outside.
There's no kids.
On vacation.
My nieces and nephew got bikes.
Good for you. Yes.
Can you believe it?
Kudos
But
to
yeah, I do hear where you're
kids
coming
don't
from.
get bikes anymore.
No.
And so no one's outside playing. When you do get an opportunity to speak with a kid, if you notice, I noticed like my little niece, she doesn't look you in the eye.
Can't make eye contact.
She can't look you in the eye.
That is weird.
When she speaks to you, she cannot. And then when we tell her, look up, speak directly to a person face to face, look them in their eye. That's important. That's a sign of respect and connectivity. She can't do it. And she's a brilliant kid. She's a very smart kid. But that disconnection is there. One of the statistics I heard maybe last summer that I spewed to her mom was that middle school children who have more than, I think it's like 4 hours screen time per day, are more likely to be depressed by 8th grade, to be clinically depressed.
Yeah. Wow. Actually, I just found a statistic that had something to do with that.
That
as
is
well.
so scary and so sad.
Yeah.
I mean, that you can text someone eloquently. You can have long text conversations. But when you sit next to one another, you cannot
think on the spot.
Think on the spot. You can't put that together. And it's also probably a lot of the reason why we see an uptick in all these mass shootings with kids in school and violence.
They feel alienated.
Yeah.
They can't talk to one another.
Right.
They feel lonely.
And I think as far as like texts are concerned, texts always, things get misconstrued. And you might mean one thing and then they take it another way. Yeah. And I guess that's where the emojis come in at. You know, somebody, I guess, call itself being brilliant and be like, oh, put an emoji behind it to express the way you truly feel.
Yeah.
And
that's
it still doesn't work.
Isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
That's really sad that you needed an emoji.
And I would rather a conversation any day over. I mean, that way I can totally understand where you're coming from. What did you mean by this? And these guys get I'm a little old school. So saying get your Mac on. How you get your Mac on? Through a text. What's wrong with picking up? I mean, and we have so many, you know, our younger generation behind us. How do you get your play on through a text?
I have a family member coming into his I guess dating or not, just talking to girls initially.
Right.
They had scheduled to talk on the phone, which was so weird to me.
Yes.
And he was trepidation, like complete, just so
angst.
just so much
anxiety
to talk on the phone. Like, well, what are we going to talk about? Like, I mean, we text all the time. I know I can think about what I'm going to say. And
right.
I'm like, what is that?
I mean, we were growing up. I'd have, you know what? This is what I did. I'd make a list. Okay, topics to talk about.
Really?
And I would. And I would make like topics to talk about, and then if I had to sing to you by the end of that conversation, hey, it was going down. But guaranteed, they would be like, get off the phone with me and be like, man, that dude was serious. And that was the way to do it. But that was growing up in the 90s, and it was just the way to do things. That was the only way to actually get a woman during conversation. And of course, we grew up in the R&B nation during that time. If you could sing,
y'all had content,
right? You could sing to somebody.
Right.
If you couldn't sing,
you didn't even have to sing. You just play the music in the background.
Play the music or
send
take
her a
some of those
mixtape.
lyrics.
But hey, guys, we're gonna go into a break, and we'll get back to you guys in just a second.